Welcome to the Barry Podcast, presented by the beautiful folks of the Joe Blow Football Show. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, MD, Master of Surgical Arts. And I'm here with my guy, Magnum, and we're going to break down all things Barry. That's right, the HBO show Barry. Love it. And to paraphrase NoHo Hank, paraphrasing Sony and Cher, it's on you, babe.
Thank you, Sony and Cher. He's got Sony Michelle on the braid over there. Must want the Bills to sign him. Like the man said, I'm Magnum Mills. Thank you for checking us out on the Barry Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform just by searching for the Barry Podcast, on social media at Barry Podcast. And like you said, we're from the Joe Blow Football Show. You can find it at joeblowfootballshow.com and on social media at Joe Blow Show.
Oh, Magnum Mills, you are that dude. And just a reminder, folks, we will be absolutely positively spoiling all aired episodes of Barry, as well as any major media interviews or appearances, things of that nature. We will not be discussing any leaks or rumors, just every episode up through episode 1 of season 3. Magnum Mills, do you know what time it is?
Probably time to do the details of the episode, right?
Nope. It's time to teach everybody a powerful way of getting shit done and ruling the world while being totally chill.
Can we do that and cover the episode?
That's part of the lesson, Mills. That's part of the lesson.
All right, I guess you're doing a Gene Cousineau thing, so I guess I'll do the details of the episode thing. And this is episode 1 of season 3, titled Forgiving Jeff, originally aired Sunday, April 24th, 2022, directed by show creator, showrunner Bill Hader, written by Bill Hader and Alec Berg, also, I believe, show co-runner creator. And the short plot synopsis is, Barry searches the dark web for jobs. Sally, now the creator and star of her own show, begins to feel the pressure of success. NoHo Hank braves his first big test and interrogation. Gene ruminates over Fuchs' crushing reveal.
Thank you for that, Magnum Mills. We are well on our way to getting shit done while totally being chill. Let's keep it going. Let's start breaking down this episode of Barry. So Magnum Mills, what we've got here, bro, is we open this scene with a very scruffy, disheveled looking Barry eating a donut. He's out in the middle of nowhere with a client and a victim. The victim has been made to dig his own grave, but the client decides that's not enough. He legit wants to cut the dude's eyelids off. So Barry sighs, goes to the car, gets a tool. In the literal 1 minute that he was gone, the client and the victim have reconciled, and the client tells Barry that he has forgiven the victim, Jeff, for sleeping with his wife. Barry isn't having any of this, shoots them both in the head before exclaiming, "There's no forgiving Jeff." Great open here, Magnum.
That's pretty early to say the title of the episode. I feel like it was a Family Guy bit back in the day. They get all excited when someone said like the title of the movie or the title of the episode or something. But I mean, dude, you had Jeff because I think Charles was the guy who was fucking Jeff's wife. Charles is like, or Charles is the guy who was getting his wife fucked by Jeff. But Charles like, "Oh, I'm forgiving Jeff," and Barry's like, "You're forgiving Jeff?" And, Jeff's like, "I'm sorry I fucked your wife." Charles like, "See, he's sorry he fucked my wife. And, she's no saint either. I think I just overreacted." And then Barry just pops him. It's just like, because that's the overreaction, right? Really, it's like Barry, who even knows, did he get this money from the guy already? It really just, I think this is also setting up that maybe his, work life is not going so well for him at this point.
Absolutely. I think he's hit an all-time low here. And, we should probably just talk about it. Visually, he looks like shit, basically, right?
He's still he doesn't have a big beer gut or something like that, but yeah, he does seem to be depressed. He hasn't
depressed,
shaved, hasn't
tired,
done his hair. Yeah, and he's eating a donut.
He doesn't give a shit about anything.
He didn't seem like the kind of guy before. He seemed a guy who was conscious enough about his physical appearance, both for work and to be an effective hitman and whatnot. So him kind of munching on a donut while doing a job does seem out of character too.
And just shows how completely out of touch with reality he is. He's getting ready to kill somebody, maybe even torture somebody now with the eyelid shit, and he just doesn't even. He's eating a donut. If you were getting ready to kill somebody, would a donut be your? I don't know.
I could see it being a cool trait in a movie or something where that's like with the killer, he eats a donut.
The donut killer,
yeah, or something. But here, really, I think kind of the thing is that it does show that I think Barry really needs what Fuchs offered, like a manager. Think about it. He was willing to cut this dude's eyelids off for no extra charge, on the spot. That would be extra, right? There's no way that's not extra because
It's
Barry's
gotta
not
be
the kind of guy,
extra.
like, he doesn't seem to really get off on that kind of shit. You can see maybe somebody's a real masochist like that, but Barry's just like, oh, sigh, I'm gonna do it. Like, really? You're not like, all right, give me an extra $3,000 or something.
Yeah, and it points to it later in the episode when he he goes to Hank, and we'll get to that in a little bit, and he's basically saying, I need a purpose. I mean, he needs direction, like you said, a
Yeah, that's what
manager.
he said. Yeah, that's a good call right there. And the one thing you have to watch it with subtitles on, but when he is looking for the tool in his car, you get some of the background dialogue between Jeff and Charles when they're trying to when Charles is apologizing or whatever, or Jeff's apologizing to fucking Charles' wife. Talk about two generic dude names like Jeff and Charles. Yeah, that's I'm mixing them up, but sorry, like they're very kind of interchangeable. But I thought the whole bit was really funny, and it was a pretty cool way to kind of get back into Barry after having been gone for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a hot minute, Magnum Mills. I mean, I watched both, seasons of Barry like as they came out. So I think have we been waiting more than 2 years for season three? It feels like a fucking lifetime. Have we
Yeah, I was
been
just
waiting
listening
full?
to the like some of the press rounds that they did before this. They basically said like I think they'd done table reads and they were like on a Wednesday, and so they're getting ready to shoot like the following Monday. So they're just about there. All the scripts are done. Everyone's on. They're ready to go. And like that Friday, the world shut down for COVID. So
Wow.
good news though is apparently they already have, even though it hasn't been officially picked up, they've apparently already written all of season 4 as well. So they did use, because they had season 3 in the can, they were able to kind of use some of that time productively. So I don't think that there will be a big gap between season 3 and season 4.
While we're on it, and before we move on to the next scene, I think they really achieved something with this opener, man. It got me right back in it, excited to watch it. It was funny, but it still had that dark overlying shadow that seems to hover over the dark cloud that hovers over Barry in the show. But they did it with this like funny humor. And as soon as I got out of that cold open, I was like, damn, I'm back hooked on Barry. Barry's the shit. Like, that's a win, dude. If you can do that to somebody, you won. Like, that's a success.
Right. Overall, I think very smart because they convey a lot about what's going on with Barry visually without having to kind of have him talk to somebody about how it's been a struggle for this last 6 months or whatever. Like, you take one look at dude and you're like, all right, shit's not going well. So I think a great job of kind of like, again, show but don't tell. You want to give the audience enough information to figure out what's happening, but you don't want to lay it out on a silver platter for them. And like you said, that's it. That's the cold open. We get the little short title card. We head over to Barry and Sally's apartment. I don't think they weren't living together last time we saw them, were they? I'm pretty sure they weren't. And
I
we
don't
see
remember that. I don't think
no, I don't
so.
think they were. I think it's been 6 months, the show says here. So we'll assume in the interim between season 2 and season 3, they moved in together. We learned that Sally has her own television show. I'm assuming it's a pilot at this point called Joplin. We also learned that Barry has been up all night and that his PlayStation controller isn't working. They agree that Barry will bring Sally flowers on set, but he will not stay for lunch.
Magnum Mills, this was a cool one for me because I thought it was funny where Barry's just sitting there and she's like, oh, you didn't come to bed last night. Like, yeah, I had a line on some work, but it fell through, so I just drove around. Just so
Like that's a regular thing that regular people do is they go out at late at night looking for a job, and then when they don't get it, they drive around.
Drive around all night.
Totally.
Like, I mean,
It's
that's
the way she does it. It either like her reaction to it either means that she's so involved in her own shit that she's just like, oh, whatever. She's not even paying attention, or this has happened enough that she doesn't even blink anymore. So either way, probably a little bit disturbing, I'd say.
yeah.
Because
Either
her
way,
actual reply to that was fun. Not like oh or something. She said fun and like seemed to kind of mean it. Like she almost might not have heard a word he said, and like he could have said anything and she would have said fun, right?
Wow. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Definitely not a Sally and Barry, a Sari, firing on all cylinders here. That is for sure. And I love her the way she was just like, and if you can stay for lunch, just know that you can't. And like basically, I want it to
Again,
look
I feel like
you
they've had
should
this
come to lunch,
conversation
but
before,
can't.
probably. And
Yes.
she's just reinforcing, like, remember, like, just come show everybody how loved I am and then get the fuck out of there. And that's
Exactly.
that's fine. And I think they do some interesting stuff here. We see they're at the point of the relationship where they're pretty comfortable around each other. Like she's doing like lip throat exercises or voice exercise or something. She's got like skincare stuff on her eyes walking around. They're definitely very comfortable at this point. And for a lot, she's got going on. If you kind of look at her desk, it remind me very much of what you see on like a high school girl's desk, man. There's like a little like Hollywood, like I don't know, book stopper or something, even some of the books. And I don't know, it looked just very high school. Nothing wrong with it. Just, it was an interesting character trait, I guess.
Gundy or Johnson, Magnum Mills. What was Barry playing, dude? Some sort of game. It wasn't Grand Theft. It looked like more of a racing,
I
right?
thought it was Gran Turismo because I think that's the bigger PlayStation 4 franchise, but I probably haven't played Gran Turismo since maybe PlayStation 3. But dude, I do feel them on the broken controller. Dude, broken controllers are the worst. And if you have one, don't be that dick who keeps the broken controller, gets a new one, then you use the new one yourself. And when people come over, you let them use the broken controller. Don't be that guy. And if you're going to keep it, you use the broken controller. All right. Just saying.
Spoken from experience. Magnum Mills has been done dirty on the broken controller. We mentioned that Barry doesn't have like a huge like gut or anything, but he's put on a little bit of weight here, hasn't he? Like I don't know, man.
He's either eating another donut or he's still working on the one before. You kind of see it next to him on the couch when he's playing the video game. So
yeah, and like I could, when he was sitting there, I kind of saw like, okay, like he's got a little. He just looks like he's not taking care of himself. I think that's the biggest takeaway here for sure.
yeah, it's probably not like De Niro trying to play Al Capone, but more like maybe he's just not bothering to go to the gym or watch what he eats so much anymore. He just doesn't really give a fuck. That kind of makes sense. And the one thing I did take note of here is that Sally was very specific. No yellow flowers. And we actually see the discussion of the flower colors come up again. So I went on the internet. I did a little bit of research. And as a guy, like, I'm not great with the color of the flowers thing. And looking on the internet didn't help because it seems that all color of flowers mean all things to different people. So to break it down in the yellow flowers, though, various takes. 1-800-Flowers says that they represent happiness and joy, and I think that's what Barry says at one point. I think he equates the yellow flower to happiness. Petal Republic warns that in certain parts of Central America, yellow flowers carry a strong message of death, so pretty much the opposite of happiness and joy there. And then RD.com says that you should not give yellow flowers on Valentine's Day because they mean jealousy and infidelity.
Wow.
So, I mean, you can see, we've seen the jealousy with Sally and Barry with kind of the work thing before when he had that audition in season 2 and everything like that. And she got like all out of sorts about it. So, I don't know if they're really, I think they're trying to say something here. I don't know if I'm not smart enough or I just don't care enough about flowers to, make it happen in my brain.
Well, I give you a lot of credit, Magnum Mills, for putting in that amount of work there. I mean, that's some solid research. Magnum Mills, I guess they're not exactly in the honeymoon stage of the relationship here, are they?
They're in the, again, just one thing kind of picking up from season 2. I don't think they were definitely at any kind of like, I love you point. So they're definitely now in the comfortable and all, like not dressing up around each other. They live together. They're saying, I love you, or at least she is. I wonder if that's gone both ways. I'm assuming so, because it doesn't sound like a big deal. But I guess it's, a whole new Barry as we're going to see this season. It's not quite a different show, but it's certainly going to, I think, feel a lot different than the first 2 seasons as far as like kind of the mechanics, like say without the acting class now and things like that. So I think you're going to see some new kind of major locations and things. And speaking of one of, both like wild plants and shit and new locations, we go to plants. That's it. It's just plants, ! That's a sign. It's the new front business for NoHo Hank and the remaining Chechens there. And Detective Mae Dunn rolls up. She has to speak to NoHo Hank. Hank seems to have been expecting this, but he's legit nervous as this is his first interrogation.
Yeah, I mean, so much going on here, dude. I mean, this is just really great because ultimately, I love that they're legitimately packing pounds of white powdered drug into the bottom of plants. And that's not even a thing at all.
Because the big dude runs and he's stumbling all over and he's like, hide the heroin. And he goes, and he just puts it onto the plant where he was going to put it anyways to begin with. And he says something, it's not even something great. It's like heroin, whatever. Oh yeah, hide heroin, fucking bitch. It's in subtitles. And we get the whatnot, the Ukrainian cover of Africa by Toto, little Ukrainian cover there.
Which was very cool
happening, and the dude running too, he's great, falling over and everything like that. And kind of back to that's definitely like a classic. I think obviously the first we get of Hank this season of NoHo Hank there, and he gets a couple of great lines where he says like SEAL Team 6 where it's like, well, SEAL Team 6 only has 6 guys and they have their own TV show. And then again, the legit nervous, he's like, guys, this is my first interrogation, I'm like legit nervous. But I think Batir gets the best line because after he says that, Hank does. And Batir's like, all right, if we don't hear from you in 2 hours, we all take cyanide pills. And you hear Yandar, like the other henchman behind him, he's like, what?
And Hank doesn't even respond.
Hank just time, like, what was that? I think that was just a great, again, we do appreciate that Barry is a dark and dramatic show, but NoHo Hank is definitely the shining light of comedy here. And this is just utterly fan. I laughed out loud at multiple aspects of this scene, so it really worked for me.
Yeah, the fact that it's the name of the business is just Plants exclamation point. I mean, how great is that's just so
You can see NoHo Hank coming up with it, right? Like, we'll call it Plants.
Plants.
He's so happy, just so pleased with himself.
Yes. And I gotta admit, dude, when I think soundtrack to NoHo Hank's life, I think the Ukrainian cover of Africa by Toto.
It's probably all like Ukrainian covers of 80s pop songs or something like that.
Totally gotta be there, dude. It's gotta be there. Absolutely incredible. From there, my man, we see Hank pulling off the white pants and the white jacket, dude. I mean,
because he was I don't know if he knew the cops were coming that day, but he did seem to be doing a Miami Vice thing. Because that would be right, because he would like dress up. That's who Hank is. Like, he would totally like have an outfit for his interrogation and everything, 100%.
Yes, and just the way that orange popped underneath the white.
Yeah, a lot of pastels. Cool. He pulls it off, man. Shout out to Anthony Corrigan, man. Good for you, dude. Like, man, I cannot pull that shit off.
No, pastels are tough. He does it well. From there, Magnum Mills, we go to his interrogation, and the detective asks Hank about the massacre at the monastery. They also show him the pin that we know was originally his. The detectives tell him it was found with the body of Detective Moss. This seems to throw Hank for a bit of a loop. They show him pictures and ask him to identify the man we know is Monroe Fuchs. Hank identifies him, but says that he's an international assassin known as the Raven. Quote the Raven, nevermore, Magnum Mills. How hilarious and awesome is the scene? Like, give me all the NoHo Hank.
Well, what would be fun is to do the alternates for this, because the way he talks about, you should look up the Raven on Wikipedia, it becomes obvious that this is what they did. It was probably him and the bull back in the office there, and they're trying to come up with assassin nicknames. So maybe they looked at movies and they start looking up animal names and shit on the internet. So they definitely look at the Raven Wikipedia page and everything. I'm just curious what some of their alternate names were, because I think you even hear later on in the episode when Batir's talking to him on the phone about how it went, and he asked about specifically how the name went over. So this was definitely something I think that they put a lot of time and consideration to, so the writers must have done so as well. Although Raven seems kind of obvious, but very funny, so I'm with it.
And I love Hank when he's being told that they found the pin next to the body of Detective Moss, and Hank's just like, wow, what the fuck? That is super fucked up, It's just
the delivery there, because you can see the wheels turning, and he's trying to he's like filibuster. And at the two, when he's going to look at the pin, he stops and takes fucking glasses out of his coat and like does the thing like a librarian or a jeweler where he holds them like 6 inches away from his face to look at the pin. And again, I don't think he needs the glasses. I think he put them in there deliberately just in case something like that.
Just to play a little game here. And
right.
I mean, he's great.
But he did not know that Barry had framed him with the pin, though. So he was just getting that information in real time. And we see that later because he brings it up to Barry, and Barry's like, "Oh fuck, I didn't know that he knew that." So I give him, Hank did a pretty good job, I think, for his first interrogation. Really, like this was, they threw him a couple of curveballs there, and I think he managed to sit on him.
He did, man. He did. I mean, when they showed him the picture of himself, pressed up against the tire.
Yeah, see, this is what it helps to be watching on YouTube, because we're going to show this picture right now, and it's like he's posing for a surveillance photo, like he's modeling, basically. It's so good. It's
so good, and he just looks at it. He looks back at them, at the FBI detectives, and he says, "Touche, Dr. Watsons." I mean, just
I died basically that whole. This is just Hank is again another like a Jesse Pinkman story. They were going to kill him off in the first episode, and they kind of saw the actor and how it was going, and were like, "Yeah, we're not going to kill this guy." So very, very good move here. I can't imagine the show without NoHo Hank. So, and then we talked about Fuchs here. We should check back in with him, because his was kind of being taken away there at the end of season 2, and we see that he's hiding out in the middle of nowhere in the Chechen mountains. He has to milk a goat himself in order to enjoy his morning cereal, although I don't know if you can really enjoy that. And he has no chance of being able to watch the Ohio State football game, first one he's missed in like 25 years. He does not seem happy, but he doesn't really appear to have any other options right now.
No, he also, it was kind of interesting because as rough and disheveled and down and depressed as Barry looked, you could kind of make the same comparison for Fuchs here a little bit. It's almost like maybe
but Fuchs might not have running water. He might have a legitimate excuse, like no hot water. I mean, he's already eating cereal with hot goat milk. Although I guess they could go to a grocery store to get some some sugar cereal. So I'd
Yeah,
assume they probably have. I'm being a little bit dickish here, but it is kind of a weird thing that they show them out in the middle of nowhere, but yet the chick Anna rolls up with like groceries and everything. Like she just went
well,
to the
she's
store
got
around
the
corner.
flaky critters, dude. She's got the flaky critters. What a
But because
great
they're out of the
name.
crunchies, dude. They were out of the crunchies. And just for the record here, we see that the mascot of the flaky critters is a raccoon, which is just, I mean, just the box itself, again, we'll show it if you're watching on YouTube. It's just hysterical. What do you think the mascot for crunchies is?
That's a great question.
Like a gator or something first came to my head, but I don't know that they would have those out in Chechnya or whatever. So I don't know, some sort of, I don't know what other kind of wildlife there, some kind of big ass wolf or.
I think maybe like some giant bug or something.
I guess maybe like their version of a Captain Crunch would be funny. Some kind of weird grizzly mountain captain or something, or maybe like a caveman. Someone who lives, I don't know, because they wouldn't have like seafaring captains as much in Chechnya, right? It'd have to be someone who lives kind of out in the mountains.
Bro, when I watched him, pour the cereal and then go and get warm raw goat milk, I mean, I literally just thought like, you better put some water on that damn shit. I mean, I couldn't stop going back to Friday.
I would eat the raw.
We ain't even got no milk.
I would just have the naked cereal then.
Yeah, I would just be dry mouth. Like, I don't care. I'll just eat it raw dog. But I just kept thinking
even do
Friday,
warm regular milk, but raw, unpasteurized, warm goat milk.
Like right into we ain't even got no milk.
I cannot believe that would enhance the flavor, and I would imagine it would overpower basically. I mean, maybe you'd end up just having like sugar raw goat milk.
Yeah.
Either way, it's
I think if there's one thing we could tell Fuchs, it's you better put some water on that damn shit.
He better do something, man. And that's kind of the one question I had, because you see Anna come in at the end and she's just so great. She just said, "Hello, I'm Anna. I got 2 more flaky critters. They have no crunchies, so I hope you like." But Fuchs kind of looks at her weird. I'm not sure if he's looking at her or past her, and he says, "Holy smokes!" And they just cut away. Any idea what was going on there? Like, does he know her, or did he see something? Is there someone standing by? It was just really, I don't know, it was an odd cut, so I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, it was an odd cut. I saw that too, and I kind of took it as maybe he was surprised that she had a car, or like that she was actually coming, like another human was coming.
But he already had the other cereal, so I'd assume they'd done this before, kind of, because he was eating the box of his cereal. So yeah, that's true. An assumption of mine. But on the other hand, why would he be like, "Yo, next time you go to the store, can you get me like cold milk?" Why is he milking the goat ahead of time if they have a fridge? I mean, I need to know the electricity status here, because he talks about putting an antenna up on the roof. So I'm assuming they must have electricity. I mean, see, they maybe should have thought of this ahead of time. I don't know. Probably way too concerned with Fuchs' situation out there. I just think we'll talk about that, but he can't be out there too long, right? They're going to have to bring him back in the mix sooner than later. Like, him and Barry might actually need each other at this point.
I think they do need each other, and I think somehow they get themselves together again. One thing though, man, is I hope he makes it back for at least a game or two. I feel him on the missing football. Maybe not so much Ohio State, but look, dude, we would all hate to miss our team. So, Fuchsy, I hear you, bro. I hear you on the missing football.
Shout out Fuchs too, because I guess his cheek healed pretty good. Because remember, like that crazy, like the feral, like ninja chick, like bit off a piece of it.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that was because he was in the car and it was the right. So we even see it's the side he's facing. So they have apparently no cold milk, but great plastic surgery out there in the Chechen mountains. So shout out Chechnya.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find out there, man. From there, Magnum Mills, we see the detectives has now brought in Cousineau, and they're asking him to identify the man in the photos who Hank ID'd as the Raven. Gene confirms that the man in the photo is the same man who was with him in the woods when they found the body. He says that he's positive that's the man and that he's connected to Barry. The police indicate that they have cleared Barry, but Cousineau doesn't care. He's basically got nothing left to lose here, Magnum Mills. He's out for blood and wants vengeance for the love of his life.
I mean, this was a pretty straightforward scene. My only real thought was, do you believe that the police are kind of buying the Raven story? I didn't know if they were just fishing there, or it kind of seems like they're buying it a little bit, right?
I think they're buying.
They're at least considering it. They're at least considering it. They're not dismissing it outright.
Yeah, but one thing that we do know is that they absolutely, they just brushed away the thought of Barry having anything to do with this. They completely cleared him, and he's not even being considered. So
yeah, I think that's a little, just because of the presence of the pin, basically. I think that's a little bit light on the police side, but I'd rather this than like they fuck it up Ozark style. So just if they're just going to be kind of a little bit incompetent, just let them be incompetent and don't overemphasize it, I think.
100%. What's going on with this is the first time we get Gene Cousineau. Did we miss something why his acting class is dead now and he doesn't have any more students? Like, what was that because Agent Moss died?
The students stopped coming or he stopped showing up. Remember, because he did that, I think, at the beginning of season 2, right? Because after she went missing, then after Janice went missing, he just stopped showing up to class, but the students kept showing up. I mean, maybe he did it again, and this time now, you know, you have Barry, he's off doing his thing. Sally looks like she's maybe probably going to bring a couple of them over. I think that's probably how they'll keep some of those recurring characters on the show, by having her show get picked up and then she gets them jobs or something like that. That would be my guess, but you know, we'll have to talk about that too, because you know, if there's not acting class, where does Cousineau fit in the show? So we, you know, you don't really want to do the show without Gene. So that brings us up to our next scene, and it's time to finally see kind of what Barry's up to by himself here. And he's browsing the Hitman wanted ad, so to speak, on the internet. And, you know, he picks one out, he heads over to a grocery store, and he gets a call from a potential client on the phone. And the woman on the phone starts to explain what she needs, which is basically to kill her husband, make it look like a mugging. But Barry doesn't listen at all. And he instead starts asking the woman questions about flowers. He's out at the grocery store looking at the flowers to buy for Sally. And the distraught woman on the phone just berates him and asks if he's a psycho.
Yeah, I mean, this is great when Barry just like completely cuts her off and he's like, does red mean love and yellow mean happy? And she's like, how could you ask me this right now? Everything I'm going through. Just again, just shows how out of touch with reality he actually is, and just stuck in his own head. He can't get out.
And you know, some of the comedy here, I think it's probably a little bit, you know, from Hater Summit Saturday Live, that they're doing stuff like the prop design with the funny cereal in here. Like, let's just break down the website that he's browsing real quick. It's like the classified. It's called the Hitman Marketplace. Here are the ads that we can see. Number 1, my brother fucked me on a business deal. I want vengeance. Los Angeles, Brentwood, Bel Air. Number 2, offering cash for someone to ice my piece of shit boss. Los Angeles, Panorama City. Number 3, need to get rid of my husband fast. Will be very lucrative for you. ASAP. Los Angeles, Sherman Oaks adjacent. Number 4, ex-best friend needs to go. $, $, Los Angeles, Altadena. And finally, number 5, help scaring my neighbor. Tuesday or Wednesday. Los Angeles, Torrance. And Barry ultimately goes with number 3, but I'm curious what the pay scale is for helping to scare my neighbor on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, you know, and it sounds like maybe that could be a recurring gig too. Every two, you know, you got a regular Tuesday nighter there.
Is it a haunting deal? I mean, it's on the Hitman Marketplace, so I guess they just want him to show up with a gun. Imagine if that's like just some HOA shit because your neighbor's like painted his fence a color you don't like or some shit.
Right,
or they're like some very LA shit. Like, dude, I'm gonna get a hitman over here unless you quit parking your car in the street.
Yeah, I could see that's
very LA kind of. There definitely seems to be some kind of inside baseball, like LA living kind of jokes on the show. And that's fine. We've definitely seen that before.
Yeah, dude, these are pure gold. These 5 ads are just absolutely incredible. How cool is that to think of, like, man, I guess there is a dark web. It's not cool. It's actually terrifying, but they brought like humor to it with it, and I thought it was this was funny. I didn't catch all of them. I only caught 1 or 2. I love that you took the time to do this, Magnum Mills, because this is pure gold.
And for the record, I did listen to I believe it was the Prestige TV podcast on The Ringer, where Bill Hader did an interview that aired shortly after this episode, and he actually talked about this and said that they did, you know, at least do enough research to confirm that you can in fact go on the dark web and get a hitman. So, which is, you know, again, not something every person could do, and hopefully they didn't actually go that far, but yeah, it's feasible.
The wild world of the internet. Internet's a crazy place, Magnum Mills. It can be confusing picking out flowers. There's a lot of options, right? I mean, we kind of feel Barry here, don't we, a little bit? I mean, it's
tougher
blind. Than it looks.
I'm flower blind. Like, even when I could play like Mario 3 back in the day, I couldn't tell which one gave you the fire or the ice or the raccoon suit on or whatever. I think I could, or even the frog one. Remember Frog Mario? Kind of weird.
Frog Mario. Like, that was in the water world. Yeah.
Level 3. But you could get him on land occasionally. Like, dude could like ribbit. Like, that was pretty. Shout out Mario 3.
Yeah. Because he could go over the plants that would eat you. He could jump. So yeah, I think that was he could
run over the plants you couldn't kill otherwise, maybe with fireballs. Like I said, been a minute for Mario 3.
Yeah, Mario 3 is like, I don't know, man. I'd still put it as like maybe the greatest game.
It is, I think, probably one of the top 5 most selling video games ever.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, Mario, the original Mario was the first because it was packaged with all the early Nintendos, so that counts too. Like the original Mario 1 for NES sold like 50 million copies or something crazy.
Wild shit, Magnum Mills. Anyways, I digress. Back to Barry. From there, we catch up with Sally at the studio. She's showing a scene from her show to a studio executive who seems very, let's just say, neutral about the whole thing. The executive doesn't seem to be able to separate the details of the various shows that she's just watched. In the hallway after the meeting, Sally reminds Natalie, who has been acting as her assistant, not to talk in meetings. She also asks her to cut up some more of those carrots into tiny little bites because, she's good at it. Sick burn here, bro, by Sally.
That's the problem, though, is I don't think she meant it to be, but Sally kind of comes off like a little bit of a condescending bitch here, right? And I think the show gives good context to show just how much is on her plate, especially in the scene we go to after this, and we see just like she is some, basically like a showrunner, producer type level here. Like this is her baby, and she's involved with even picking what goddamn shade of blue or whatever, like every little decision. And so you want to give her a little bit of leeway, but you got to feel for Natalie here, because even in the meeting, she was just trying to like butter up the executive to make them feel good. She didn't offer her opinion or something. She was like, "Oh no, it was great." You know what I mean? Just like generic boilerplate, like, "Oh, you're the best," or "Don't worry," what you'd say to butter someone up or kiss ass or something. It wasn't
she did confirm that it was a good, it was a good scene, but it wasn't in this show. So she did kind of point out, and I think she was just trying to make it so the producer didn't feel awkward about
exactly 100%.
But it was still kind of like, maybe she didn't completely stay in her lane there. I mean, I don't know.
She wasn't offering notes on the scene or something like that, or you know what I mean? I thought it was generic enough that it was like one step above being like, "Oh, hello, how are you?" Or "You have a nice shirt," or something. Like, "I like your shoes." I'd say it's like one level above "I like your shoes." It's not completely harmless, but it's pretty damn harmless.
So you don't think Sally was intentionally trying to crush her here? Because
I think that's just who she is, though. Did you see that? I think she has enough self-awareness. Like the thing, even when she in season 2 went off on Barry because she was jealous of him getting the audition, and she was even like kind of mad at herself for being jealous. So she has enough self-awareness to recognize it, but not enough to outgrow it, so to speak.
I mean, dude, this is a sick burn, man. I mean, because she literally looks at Natalie and she says, "Actually, you know what? When I'm in a meeting, that's a great time for you to be making my snack. Oh, and can you cut up some carrots in those tiny bites like you do? You're just so good at it. Thank you." I mean, she just completely shreds Natalie here, and it was incredibly passive aggressive, condescending, and putting that woman in her place, dude. Like that's like basically pulling it off, slapping it across her face.
And I will say for fans of The Good Place, this is especially bad because Darcy Carden is Janet, like a main character on The Good Place, and she is just great, and everyone who watched that show loves her. So any crossover here, you're watching this and in your head you can't be like, "She's being mean to Janet." Again, she's a great actress. She can obviously play different roles and everything. And the Janet role is a very varied role. Yeah, dude, just if they have Darcy Carden, she should be in like every episode. So I hope she is going to maybe be Sally's assistant and stick around or whatever. I would like to see her like on a, at least a very reoccurring basis, not like a full on, added to the main cast kind of thing.
Magnum Mills, doesn't this feel like some inside baseball type stuff about the entertainment industry as a whole? Like it just kind of feels like they're kind of giving us a kind of that insider look and just double secret probation on what really the happenings of going on there,
Well, like writers like to write about writing, actors like to act about acting because it's what they know. You saw that a lot, like 30 Rock loved to kind of go inside the writer's room and stuff like that, and that was always great. Again, on the same interview I listened to with Bill Hader, he did talk about how they talked to various other actors on the set, other their friends that are in the business, and asked kind of about what these meetings are like. And they came up with the thing that most of the time these people are seeing so many different shows or whatever that they tend to bleed together, and that they always feel like they have to ask a question, and that's why they had to ask like the dumb question like, "Oh, do they live together?" I got like the mother and the daughter, and they're like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Oh, did you live with your mother in high school?"
I did.
Like, I did, and then she's like, "Me too." I think that's the studio, like that's their trying to relate to people kind of, and it's just so kind of awkward and robotic, but you get it, I think. So it all works for me. But again, you are right, it is definitely stuff that if you are somehow in the entertainment business, the jokes probably land a little bit better for you and whatnot. And after the hallway, we go with Sally onto set, and we see like a very long run, or a one-shot scene where we see Sally kind of navigate her way left to right through the various sets on her show, and she has to offer a bunch of input on various situations. After walking through a few sets, she gets a moment of darkness before we hear the horn go off, and she has to walk onto an active set, sit down, and deliver her lines. While she does seem stressed, she also seems to be handling it pretty well.
Dude, this was really cool because you just see as she goes through set by set by set by set by set, finally working her way to the end where she's alone for 2 seconds and she can just take a deep breath and then boom, it's go time. I mean, it's like that was very cool, man, where it's like it looks like she's completely falling apart, but at the same time, she's built for this shit, bro. Like she's made for it.
I mean, this is her chance, and you saw that in the hallway scene where her agent was like, "Oh, and you can't fuck this up. Like, good luck and everything, but yeah, seriously, this has to work." Like, there is a palpable amount of pressure here. Great overall technical thing. These things are hard. I think Hader said they did 16 takes of this, and this was the 16th take. So, shout out to the actors for going through all this, and I think it just did a good job of both showing how much Sally has on her plate and kind of giving you a better feel for really what she is going through on a day-to-day basis. So even though she's been kind of bitchy so far, I think it does help to give you a little bit of context so you understand that her situation is definitely impacting her.
Yeah, 100%. How great was Barry here? Just kind of like, oh wait, never mind. That's next scene. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess the only other thing here is when she was walking through all the sets, I counted, I think she had to make like 7 different decisions, and she gets a couple more after the one thing, but a lot of them are the same decision on this certain blue thing or whatever, like right down to the point where literally 2 seconds before the director says action, she's still answering a question about whether this is fucking sky blue or whatever the
anything
fuck it is.
But blue, bro. It's anything but blue.
Keeps like oh no, it's not. It's one of those other Crayola colors or whatever.
It's aqua. It's
maybe it was aqua. Feels like that was in there. Yeah. I thought that was pretty good. It does feel maybe a little bit meta on the part of Bill Hader because he's wrote the episode here. Like this is kind of his life, right? Like when it comes to Barry, this is everyone's asking him about everything probably. So this has to come from a little realness, I would think.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know that he and any other showrunner has days where they feel just like this. Where it's like literally, oh my God, and this is probably, it's kind of like, when Waiting did the movie about waiting tables. Anyone who's ever worked in the restaurant industry was like, oh my God, I feel you, bro. Yes.
Right. You can tell someone who, the writer of that worked in restaurants and everything.
Yes.
You can tell because that was enough of, same thing with like Clerks. Like you could tell Kevin Smith had spent a fair amount of time behind the counter.
Absolutely, dude. So I think that's kind of the same
milkmaids
thing
are a real thing, man. The milkmaids are a real thing. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it could be just trying to find that perfect dozen, dude. I mean, that's the
eggs. Those are the guidance counselors. They always pay for the ones that they break.
All
right, we did Clerks. So
we did Clerks. After that, Magnum Mills, we see Barry, and he's set right after they call lunch, and Barry gives her the flowers he purchased, and he says that he can't stay for lunch. While Barry is looking at Sally talk, we see and hear a bullet hit her right between the eyes, and the sound in the scene drops out. We see Barry struggling to hold it together as the blood drips down her forehead before we cut away. This ended up being a recurring theme, Magnum Mills, throughout the rest of this episode. And man, this is like, okay, if you didn't think Barry was struggling before this, this slaps you across the face. I mean, he's straight up hallucinating, dude.
And it's funny because he actually brings that up to NoHo Hank later that he's seeing shit. So we do acknowledge that this is not really like a dream or something like that. He is apparently experiencing this in real time. And threw me for a second when it first happened. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What now? Like looking around, like, wait, like, she couldn't have really been shot, right? I mean, I think it's effective. They use it here and then to a little bit of a different degree with Kusanov later, but it's cool, but I don't think they can keep pulling that trick. It'll lose its effectiveness if you keep doing it, but here it was very effective, I think.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's just, and again, just showing how bad he's struggling here. I liked how they did it too, like the way the sound effect was there and then sound dropped out. I mean,
you kept talking, right? We couldn't hear her. It's funny because I didn't even bother. I do a little bit of lip reading, and I should have done it more with that, but it was just kind of, I was just all really focused in because they don't show her talking a lot of it's just on Hader doing his reactions, which are, you can see Barry kind of, again, great face acting and everything there by Hader. So very good stuff.
100% Magnum Mills.
Oh, all right. And then it's back to see our boy, NoHo Hank. He's coming home. He's on the phone there, like we talked about, relaying that it all went well. And he gets into his house. He goes into the shower. Cristobal's in there. We see that they're in a relationship. You know, Hank gets naked, hops in the shower. Later on, they're laying in bed together. Supposedly they have all this cash, but they're still like watching video on a laptop with like a 15-inch screen. Come on, guys, upgrade, bigger screen here. If you're going to Netflix and chill, at least get yourself a smart TV, something like that. And when they're laying in bed, we hear Cristobal talk about how much he hates Barry for killing all of his buddies. You know, Hank says, well, he killed most of my buddies too. But you can tell this is a little bit of a source of friction between the two. And then Hank heads outside to blow out some candles that were on. And he's surprised that Barry's out there hanging out, waiting to talk to him. Barry asks Hank if he has any work for him. And Hank responds by telling Barry all of the fucked up things Barry has done to him recently. Barry begs him for a job, telling him that he needs a purpose. Hank tells him that forgiveness needs to be earned, and then tells him to fuck off and try not to frame him on the way out. As he goes to leave, Barry gets a text for Cousineau asking to meet up.
Yeah, and this is just such a great scene because I love that they did this. It wasn't exactly shocking. I mean, we all knew there was a serious bromance brewing between NoHo Hank and Cristobal, but this was just so sweet and cool how they did this. I'm a huge fan of it. Thought it was awesome, and I love just them. Hank's just laying with his little head on Cristobal's chest, and they're just watching TV, talking like a normal couple in bed. I mean, just how good was this, dude?
Oh, it was very good. I'm struggling like it's tough to come up with a good ship name for there. Apparently, this is just going to be a thing like Hankaball, like Krista Hank, like I don't know, like NoHo Cristobal. Like that sounds kind of cool, but maybe a little bit long. So we'll have to work on that. And like I said, I think that ultimately they're really cool together. But I am worried that the fact that Hank kind of I don't know if he has a thing for Barry or whatever, because you even hear when Barry's like, oh, you guys are in a relationship now, and Hank's like, oh yeah, you jealous? And we wouldn't think so, because I don't think it's like in a sexual way, but maybe Barry is a little bit jealous, kind of, because maybe from a friend or just close relation standpoint or something like that. So it's obvious that he has some kind of thing here with NoHo Hank, because he's the only one he tells, like, oh, I'm seeing shit, I might be losing my mind. He doesn't tell that to Sally or Cousineau or anyone else. He just tells it to NoHo Hank.
Yeah, and for the record, Magnum Mills, I am on team Hankaball. I think all day team Hankaball is where I'm going with it. But yeah, dude, you're right. I mean, Hank and Barry have history though, dude. They have history, and I think Barry knows that he can't tell Sally some of the crazy, ridiculous, messed up stuff that's going on in his head, right? But you can tell Hank that Hank's not a super judgy bro, dude. Like he'll hear you out, and he's got a healing quality to him, doesn't he? You want to tell him things and get a hug from him, kind of like that's what you love about Hank.
Oh, and dude, Hank is just, I mean, he just doesn't stop, dude. He is like a Ruth Langmore from Ozark type with the fucking lines. Like when he first, he pulls up in the car, he's talking to Batir on the phone about how the interrogation went. And he talks about, what they're going to do with Fuchs. And he says, oh, we pin everything on him because he is worthless to us. He is our patsy. And Batir's like, oh, and they bought the name? And Hank says, oh, they were scared. They were like, holy shit, he's called what? And then when he's talking to Barry, like a line that cuts a little bit, when he says, you frame me using pin that I gave you for being great dude. And, I can live without his, lack of articles there or whatever, but you get the sense like he really did he kind of care and trust for Barry.
Bro,
yeah,
he loved Barry.
Like a true bromance here, I think, going on, like a real bromance kind of deal. And he's really kind of insulted. Like he never dreamed in a million years that Barry would implicate him to save his own ass. And so it kind of, we see Barry actually say this line back to Cousineau later, but it's actually Hank's the one who says, Barry, forgiveness is something that has to be earned. And, of course, then he's got to, do his Hank thing with it's like that line in the Shawshank Redemption, get rich or die trying. And, finally the one at the end, like, no, seriously, fuck off. Try not to frame me on the way out.
Can't make it up. Again, another great scene. I love that Barry still calls Gene Mr. Cousineau. I mean, that's just,
even via text, yeah.
Even via text. Sure thing, Mr. Cousineau. I mean, that was great. And speaking of that, we then see Gene looking at the gun we heard him mention back in season 2. As he goes to leave, Gene hugs his grandson and tells him that no matter what, it's all going to be okay. His son Leo senses that something is wrong, but doesn't say anything to Gene.
Yeah, again, you kind of get the impression like this is a man who thinks he might be going to his death. Not a lot else here. I do think that, Leo, his son, kind of he does a little bit of a double take there, and he realizes like, oh, something doesn't feel right. And you see him kind of follow him out, but he doesn't follow him all the way out the door and lets him go. And then we do get to see that the gun really did come from Rip Torn. It has a note with it. It says, from the desk of Rip Torn, couscous. Try not to blow your dick off with this. Rip. Dictated, but not read.
Absolutely hilarious, dude. It's the little shit in Barry that just puts it over.
It's funny
the
that
top,
couscous,
dude.
that's a pretty good, it's a
Yes.
solid nickname right there and everything. So
100%, dude. I mean, if I knew a
think
dude
I'm
named
with all that.
Cousino, he would be couscous. Like,
Couscous,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's it makes sense. So, I never
And how
know.
awesome
Oh,
is Rip
gee,
Torn,
Mr.
dude?
Cousino.
I mean,
which I think he passed away,
Rip Torn.
unfortunately, I feel like, but that would have been a great, because you could have, like, to have his voice, like him do the voiceover for that or something would have been great when he's looking at it. I would have loved that.
This
Not even
isn't
have to
some
show
kind
him,
of
just the
intergalactic kegger.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
him in Men in
It's
Black.
funny. I know
Dude,
he said
love
so
Rip
many
Torn.
things, but I do always think of him from Men in Black. So
Yeah, I love Rip Torn. I mean, the fact that the dude's name is legitimately Rip Torn, like the fact that his parents had him, their last name was Torn, and they decided to go with Rip. I mean, that's
you
just
sure that's his
legendary,
given
dude.
name, not Hollywood
His given name. I'm 85%.
Oh, see, it went down to 85%.
That's still 85. That's hey, that's all right. Our producer, the dick, is in my ear right now saying I can't say stuff unless I know for sure. He's looking it up while he's doing that.
His given name is Elmore Rule Torn Jr.
Well, I'd go by Rip too, son of a bitch.
I had a feeling the parents weren't going to go there, but
I still wanted to believe it though. I still wanted to believe it.
Yeah, and somehow, I just want to also believe that Torn by Natalie Imbruglia was written about him, but we'll have to figure that out in a different show.
Oh, Magnum Mills. He does it again. Anything else on this one before we move on?
No, we just see Barry, after that, he follows up on the text. So he goes back to the acting class studio and he heads into Gene's office and they kind of exchange pleasantries. They haven't seen each other in a while, as we noticed when we saw Barry's phone, because he'd been sending texts that Gene hadn't been answering. And pretty quickly, we get down to the brass tacks here. And Gene says that he knows that Barry killed Janice and that Barry has two choices: confess to the cops or fucking die. At that moment, we hear Gene's gun fall apart and pieces of it roll to Barry's feet. Barry says he's sorry and lunges over the desk at Gene.
I think, dude, they did. This was a great scene, and they did a great job with this, because I wasn't like concerned or thinking that either Barry or Cousino would die, because they're both so critical. Like, I wasn't worried, but this felt like a pretty intense scene here, man. Like, I thought they did a really good job creating that tension, but also it wasn't like, oh my God, one of these guys is going to die. It was kind of a cool mix.
And I respect the shit out of the show for doing this in episode 1 of the season, because a lot of shows, once the character knows something the other one doesn't, in this case, that he knows that Barry killed Janice, they might string that out for damn near the whole season. Like, we wouldn't have this confrontation until either the finale or maybe the penultimate episode. That's almost what made me be like, damn, we have to cover this, because we hadn't planned on covering this. And I'm just like, it's so interesting that they're going to deal with this right on. And I just hope to dear God that doesn't mean that we're going to lose Henry Winkler in the next episode or two. We'll have to talk about that as we talk about the end here, but I'm hoping that there's a way that this keeps going with everybody still on the show. But yeah, this was a very tense scene. I thought Hayden did a great job, because he knows, like, the way they cut to him as soon as Gene says, like, oh, like, he doesn't know Fuchs' name. He's like, oh, the guy whispered in my ear. He knows what he told him. There was nothing else. He knows exactly, like, he told him the one truth that he knows would break him, completely.
Yeah, this was great. And how awesome was the contrast when Gene, like, literally is like, or fucking die, and then immediately, the gun falls apart and rolls to, the barrel slowly rolls to Barry's foot. It's
crazy juxtaposition, because it's like, could Gene really have the balls to, like, maybe at least, like, take a shot at him? He's probably not going to kill the titular character, but he could maybe shoot him or something like that. And then Barry kills him in self-defense, I guess. Maybe that seems kind of plausibly something that could happen. But just in the way he says fucking, apparently, Henry Winkler doesn't drop the G's on the fucking, but the way he says fuck, it's almost like a weird, like, Ozai Rami or Ruth Langmore, the way she says fucking it, but then just because it's not even a second. Die, and he goes to point the gun, like, you can just see the arm moves a little bit, and you just hear great Foley work, because you know what it is. As soon as you hear it, you're like, oh shit, that's like the gun. And then you hear basically the chamber, and then the bullets start falling after that, and it's so perfect.
Yeah, really awesome scene, Magnum Mills. And from there, we get to our final scene of the episode. We're out somewhere close to, at least it looks like, where the season began in terms of that opening scene. And Barry has a gun to Mr. Cosino's head, and he's begging for his life. Again, Barry imagines having shot Gene in the head, and he continues to talk as the bullet wound leaks blood, the same way they did earlier with Sally. As he shouts that he forgives Barry, Barry replies that forgiveness has to be earned. Cusino then screams at him, then fucking earn it. This seems to trigger something inside Barry, and he releases his tension, and he eventually lowers his gun here, Magnum Mills. He tells Cusino that he knows how to make it up to him. He really thinks it can work. And we end the episode with Barry pointing the gun at Cusino again and telling him, get back in the trunk, with a smile.
Yep, and if you're on YouTube, that's what you see behind me. It's the first time the entire episode, like you see just the corner of his mouth turn up just a little bit, and he sees a little daylight at the end of the tunnel. And I am extremely curious. Do you have any idea what he's thinking?
I'm thinking he's thinking he's going to kill Fuchs. That's the only way. That's what came into my head. Like, I'm gonna kill Fuchs for you because it's his fault that Moss died. Yes, I did it, but here's.
I mean, she figured it out too. It wasn't really Fuchs's fault. Like, she saw the Facebook pictures and shit like that. She legit, I don't think that's gonna placate Gene, man. Like, this is, and again, it's a little bit that, she is the love of my life and everything. I don't know if that was maybe a little bit too quick, but I get that, sometimes you fall head over heels or whatever. And he seems that he doesn't give a fuck. Even if, his acting class was like the most important thing. He said he doesn't have any career other than that. It was kind of a big deal, and he's giving it all up for love here or whatever. So you'd have to think that, yeah, this is I don't know what could possibly, he can't bring her back to life. So what else could he do?
That's the only thing that I could think of is
that's one of the reasons I really want to talk about this season, because this is fascinating. Like, if you would have told me going in, it would have been pretty easy to figure out what happens. Like, they do a cat and mouse thing for a couple episodes, and then, maybe Barry figures out that he knows, but he doesn't know that he knows, and that kind of thing. And the way that they've gone with this, I have no idea what they're going to do next. And I think it's just kind of exhilarating.
No, for sure, bro. I mean, it could be, they got to bring Fuchs back somehow. And this seemed like maybe how. It could also be Barry maybe deciding to go and work for the FBI. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he tries to honor Agent Moss some way, somehow. It'll be interesting to see it. I can't wait. Barry is very cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn it over. Yeah, I'm trying to turn it over my head real quick, because we did see, remember when Barry was having to do a monologue, and he's like, I want to do it about the night I met you or whatever, because he didn't want to talk about his actual experience in the military. And
right.
Then after Cusino goes and meets his son, he kind of has this realization that he's very kind of self-interested like that and self-centered. I don't know, maybe can Barry get him on Joplin? Can he get Sally to like somehow bring him in or something, and he gets him like a legit job? And I don't know, maybe he's just so happy to be back in the industry and like people like him or something. I can't think of anything else other than kind of making him that famous or something. Or
what's interesting about that, Mills, is when Barry first went to meet Mr. Cusino and sat in Gene's office, he said, so are you doing any acting now that the acting class isn't going anymore? And Gene ignored the question and didn't answer and went right into, I know what you've done.
Well, he said, no, he said my career is shit. We both know that, Barry.
Yeah, but maybe a little foreshadowing.
That's the only thing I can think of. That's the only thing he might have to offer, is to somehow like play to his ego.
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything else that would really, I mean, this is a dude who's really, again, a pretty non-violent dude who is like at least willing to try to kill someone he knows is a hitman. So, he's pretty far out there, I think, at this point.
Yeah, he clearly has nothing. And he's, and that's after he's reconnected with his son and his grandson. I mean, that's a big deal, man, to show how low he is.
Yeah. Is there any way that, like, when he said, like, fucking earn it, that seemed to be kind of what triggered something in Barry? You have any idea what that is?
That's the great part about this. I think it has something to do with how he's going to make this right.
Yeah,
I have no clue how it is, what it is.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was hoping maybe you figured it out, because I'm still working on it over here.
Still mulling it over, Magnum Mills, but I think it's important to note that we did get through this episode and we're still very chill. And before we get out of here, man, let's hit the highlights and whatnot. We can start by each giving out our favorite line, bit of dialogue from the episode. I will go first. You said it earlier, but to me, it was the funniest line of the episode for me. And that was that end scene between NoHo Hank and Barry at Hank's house. And Barry looks at him and says, talking about trust. He said, it's like that line from Shawshank Redemption. Get rich or die trying. I mean, just so classic Hank, and you absolutely love it. It just was the epitome of like what Hank is, and just the funny parts about the show, dude. So to me, that one stood out. Absolutely loved it, and that one made me laugh quite a bit.
Oh man, I wanted to go with the try not to frame me on the way out because again, perfect Hank. But I have to go with that just exchange at the end where Gene says, "I forgive you," and then Barry says, "Forgiveness has to be earned," and then Gene drops that. Well, then fucking earn it. Not only did he sound a little bit Dice Clay in his delivery, but I thought it was just a very powerful moment. And I like that it was Barry bringing back around that line that Hank had said to him in the first place.
Very cool, Magnum Mills. Very cool.
And that brings us to our favorite moment of the episode. It could be favorite scene, favorite moment, something like that. I will go first here. This is a tough one because I wanted to go with that scene with Barry and Gene in his office because Gene's got the great line. He drops the gun and it's funny, but it's a little bit short. So I'm going to go with the scene with Barry and Hank outside of Hank's house. You get some great Hank lines here, and you hear Barry like actually bearing his soul to him about what's wrong and everything. I think there's a lot going on in that scene, so I'm going to go with that one as my favorite.
Great scene, Magnum Mills, for me, when Gene and Barry are sitting in Gene's office, and Gene basically tells him that he knows what he's done, how it happened. Fuchs telling him, and gives him two choices: turn himself in or fucking die. And essentially the gun, he goes to grab the gun and it falls apart. And I just love the way the barrel of that gun, the chamber where the bullets get loaded, just slowly rolls up against Barry's foot. There must be an angle in that in Cousineau's office. Old Couscous has got to get it straightened out. But that was such a great scene. Just my favorite of the show, of this episode.
Yeah, I again, that was my other runner up there. So totally with you on that.
Yeah, man. And so now it's time for my favorite Dr. Dre / Barry reference, featuring Hitman. This is when we talk about our favorite featured player in the episode, the best hitman, who doesn't have to be an assassin or even a man, just the best. Magnum Mills, for me, we may be the same here. I don't care. The MVP for me by far, my hitman, my featuring hitman, my jam is NoHo Hank. It has to be. Every scene he's in is literally gold. Everything he says is literally gold. However they decide to use him, as much, I hope it's a plethora. Love the guy. He makes this show awesome.
And I'm going to agree with you there. And I think it was pretty clear. Not only did he have so many great and enjoyable moments, but I think as a character, he won kind of every scene he was in, right? Like he got the police to do what he wanted, more or less. He's in a happy relationship. He says it himself. He's trying to be his best self now, his best me. And he even puts Barry in his place. Like he wins the scene with Barry. So, when you win every scene you're in, and you're, NoHo Hank to begin with, pretty easy to get on board that train. So like the Quad City DJs, I'm gonna come on and ride the NoHo Hank train.
Ride it. Ooh, ooh.
And that's it. We've ridden the train to the time of the episode that most of the characters on Barry probably care the most about. And that's, how do we review this episode? How do we grade the thing? And in honor of Gene Cousineau himself, Henry Winkler, we're going to grade this episode on a Fonzie scale, where we go from 1 Fonzie at the bottom to 10 Fonzies at the top, fucking mega Fonzie, the coolest, right? Because that's Fonz, right? That's what every actor, they want to be the Fonz, man. Just the absolute coolest. I think I'm up here first on this one, and I'm going to go with a flat 9.0 Fonzies here. Very high. Again, a little bit of a contemplative episode, a little bit of a, for the most part, until we get to that last moment, it's pretty much just set up. All right, here's where we are after the time jump. But man, that last 2 scenes there with Barry and Gene really push it to the next level, I think. So feel confident. 9 out of 10 Fonzies. Jamie G, show me some, how many times you're gonna hit that jukebox or whatever.
Hey, man, I'll tell you what, the Fonzie is turned up. I am not going to go to 9 Fonzie Magnum Mills, but I'm sticking with 8.5 Fonzies. This was Very cool. There wasn't a ton of, like new additional, but like you said, a lot of kind of, setup. There wasn't a ton of like new, characters and or plot lines. There's still a lot of questions. Maybe some of that's done by design. It was primarily just, seeing how messed up, Barry is, and you did get glimpses of Fuchs and stuff out there, and you got Hank, but that was primarily it. But you're right, the last couple of scenes there really smacked you across the face and set the tone for what I think will be an outstanding episode 2 when that comes out next week. So I'm giving this thing 8.5 Fonzies because he was the coolest.
Hey,
there it is. Come on, man. I needed you to do it. All right, Mills. Appreciate that. Before I do what any good lead does and get us some Ubers and get the hell out of here, do you have any predictions for the next episode and or the rest of the season?
We've touched on them a little bit, so we won't go over the, kind of Barry's plan at the end there. But real quick one for you. Is Sally's show, Joplin, going to be a hit? You think it's getting picked up?
Dude, I could see it going like a total bomb. And it's like Sally deals with some sort of, tragedy where it falls apart on her and Barry becomes like a good boyfriend for once. Like I could kind of see that going, but I am going to go out on a ledge here and say Sally's show is a hit.
I'm going to agree with you there for no other reason. Bill Hader kind of mentioned that they kind of kept going back to the acting class. So they wanted to do something different. So I think having the show picked up is a way to keep the other kind of recurring, characters from the acting class involved without having to necessarily keep doing the acting class thing. So, I'll agree with you there with my little bit of explanation. And here's another one, pretty simple. Is Gene Cousineau going to survive the season?
Man, that's really tough, bro, because he is Mr. Cousineau. I'm going to say yes, but I think we're going to worry a little bit.
Yeah, I also go with yes somehow. I mean, I just like, see, now this is when I'm like, what if we can Barry turn Cousineau into a hitman? I don't know if he's quite, maybe he's like, Roger Murtaugh, a little bit too old for this shit, but that would be pretty cool. And here's one more for you. How long do you think Fuchs is stuck over there in Chechnya? How many episodes under over episode 3, Fuchs is back in LA?
Under.
So you think he's coming back basically next episode or the episode after, basically?
Next episode or in that 3rd episode for sure.
And I'm going to go a little lower. I'm going to go with maybe like episode 5. Like it takes him like a couple of episodes to build a plan to get out. I think it's going to involve that Anna chick somehow or something like that, because obviously she has access to transportation or something. But I don't think he's going to be able to get there quick. I think it's going to take a few episodes to set that shit up.
I can't wait to find out. Thank you for checking out the Barry podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We hope you enjoyed it. We're doing our best to be a plastic bag blowing in the wind just for you. Remember, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It only takes a few seconds. May not mean a ton to you, but it means a ton to us. Really helps us out. We appreciate it. We love you. Magnum Mills, tell the people where they can find all of our content, which is absolutely free and awesome.
And
totally chill.
Yep, totally chill and free. Or again, that's basically NoHo Hank, right? You're like 80% of the way there, and you're almost 100% of the way through listening to the Barry podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform, on social media at Barry Podcast. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show, who you can find at joeblowfootballshow.com, on social media at Joe Blow Show. We are also covering the 6th and final season of Better Call Saul on our podcast Saul Over Soon, on your favorite podcast platform, and on social media, it's all over soon. And wouldn't you know it, the final 7 episodes of the Netflix show Ozark are about to drop, and we're covering that on the Ozark podcast, on your favorite podcast platform, and on social media at Ozark Podcast. And we will never stop talking about them from Philadelphia, the Patty's Gang, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which we cover periodically on our podcast, The Night Pod Cometh, on your favorite podcast platform, and on social media at Nightpod Cometh. And next up for us, we're going to be covering episode 2 of season 3, Limonada. That will air on Sunday, May 1st. And look for our episode 2 drop on Wednesday, May 4th. Thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoyed this, but if not, there's no need to worry. I'm pretty sure that people can change.
That's some raw, unapologetic truth with a capital T right there.
Truth.
This has been the Barry Podcast, presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with Barry, HBO, Alec Berg Inc., Han Arpley, or Warner Brothers Television. The views here are those of the hosts only, and they do not reflect those of any other person, organization, or entity. Thanks again for tuning in, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next episode.